Hi, I'm Dorothy. Are you ready to dive deep into one of the bougiest zip codes in the country? The good, the bad, the ups and downs, the real and the not so real. This is That Greenwich Life. First, I'd like to thank our episode sponsors. Jaja Pet by Janet is the stress-free groomer in Greenwich for your precious pups. I take my golden doodle Bleecker there, and he plays with all the other dogs the whole time instead of being locked up in a crate, and he looks and smells amazing when he leaves. The name Zhao Zhao means happy place, and that's what it is. For more info, visit jaujapet.com and at Jaja Pet by Janet on Instagram. We all want glowing skin, and that's why I go to Medical Aesthetics PA Naomi Fisher. She specializes in Morpheus, microneedling, Aquagold facials, IPL, and more, and she's teamed up with Dr. Katie's Wellness Insights practice in Darien, so every issue gets treated from the inside out. Book an appointment at wellnessinsights.com and mention That Greenwich Life for 10% off. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of That Greenwich Life. I am your host, Dorothy, Cascerceri, Simone. And you know, on this show, we talk a lot about what can you do to keep your mind in a good place? What can you do to keep your mental health on point? But you know what we really haven't talked about very much? We haven't really talked about your body and the importance of things you can do in moving your body to keep your mental health feeling good. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, you realize that we are in a different set. And the reason that we are here is because I did love those pink chairs, and I will keep doing that for all of my solo episodes. But I didn't love the lighting that it was giving my guests. And when I'm a guest on a show, I want good lighting. So my guest today deserves to have good lighting. I want you to welcome to the show my friend, my dear friend of, how long has it been? Like 15 years
Probably
or
15
something.
years.
Yep. She's a yoga instructor. She's a fitness instructor. She is an on-air personality. She's been featured on shows like Live with, what I think it was
Live
like
with Kelly and Michael at the time.
Live with Kelly and Michael at the time on Fox News Channel, Fox and Friends. She even had her babies with her baby, I should say, with her, doing baby booty camp on TV. Anyway, she is a fitness video creator, and her name is Nicole Glor. You can find her at nikkifitness.com and at nikkifitness on Instagram. And also on YouTube, she has 15 videos, workout videos that you can access from anywhere in the world, that to keep you in shape. So anyway, thank you, Nicole. I have to call her Nikki because she's my friend. Although I do have you saved in my phone as Nicole Glor. So, but anyway, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you. It's so funny because we actually, before we get to the meat of the show and all of kind of the science behind yoga and how important it is, because that's what we're really going to try to focus on today. Nicole and I met like a million years ago when we were both living in New York City. And I love, this is a very That Greenwich Life story. Because we met in New York City through our mutual friend, Courtney, who also I'm hoping to have on the show as a guest soon.
We met on a set.
Yes.
At Fox.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I feel like we were both doing, I guess we were both doing a segment. I was probably talking about celebrities and the latest scandal, happening. And you were...
I was probably saying do's and don'ts of celebrity workouts.
Exactly. So yeah, I was like, draining society, and you were like adding positivity to people's days. But anyway, we met a million years ago, and we became friends. And then when I moved to Greenwich about like 8 years ago, I was on Facebook. This is the beauty of social media, right? Mm-hmm. We had stayed in touch over the years. In fact, we were saying this set is reminding us of a show, an internet show that I used to host on paltalk.com. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if that exists anymore. I don't even really remember what it was exactly. But Nicole came on my show, and this really does remind us of that set. So it's almost like we haven't even aged, like time stopped. But anyway, so I was moving to Greenwich, and I looked on Facebook, and I see her posting this beautiful like kitchen renovation. And then I see that it's tagged in Greenwich, Connecticut. And I'm like, wait a second. I immediately texted her. I had just moved, and I had no friends, zero friends. I knew like maybe one person through a friend of a friend of a friend. I was in the thick of it, momming like crazy. My son, Nicholas, was only just had his first birthday. It was rough. And I texted Nikki, and immediately we were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you just moved here. I can't believe you just moved here. We got together, and the rest is history.
We pretty much took Greenwich by storm.
We did take Greenwich by storm.
Now we have too many friends almost.
Exactly. And so, so it's really nice to have you on the show. So the thing about Nikki is that, way back when I was going through all my difficult things, which if you're just tuning in for the first time, I went through an extremely difficult journey of infertility and a very, very traumatic 21-week pregnancy loss with multiple losses following, and a parallel trauma within my own family at the same time. There was just so much. It was a dark period of time. And not only did Nikki help me as a friend, as one of my closest friends, but she is one of the most incredible yoga instructors you can ever come across. And at the time, I used to belong to the Equinox Gym here in Greenwich, and I used to go to her classes. And what I always loved is you always had a passage that you read at the end of the class. And I always feel like those classes are so important. So she's such a great yoga instructor. She's also a great fitness instructor. Like, I really try not to do any of her fitness classes because I'm not strong enough and I'm not fit enough. But anyway, I think I learned once that yoga originally was not meant to be a workout.
Correct.
Okay, so
it was
speak
to
to that.
prepare you for meditation. It was to prepare your body to sit still, and just kind of calm your mind and get you into that kind of position. So it's all about the breath. Yoga means yoke, so it's the breath and movement. And when you really start to slow down your breathing, it centers your mind. It makes you more in tune with what's going on in your body. It lets you kind of deal with trauma in a better way. If you're going through, I've already been in yoga classes where people have cried at certain poses. And I did one time back when I was at Crunch in New York City.
Yeah. So did I. I remember when I broke up with my boyfriend in my 20s. Gosh, like those were the days. Like, being married now 10 years. But when I broke up with my boyfriend in my 20s, I went to a Bikram yoga studio in New York City, and I went religiously, and Bikram is like the really hot, like they pump that heat up, and it's like,
and it's a little faster.
And it's like a certain number of poses, and it's the same poses every single class. But I remember I would just be crying and crying. So to your point, it really is like, if you haven't cried in a yoga class, are you even living?
And I still remember the pose.
Are you even healing, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. It was wheel pose for me, and I was not teaching that class. I like to take other people's classes as well and have my own practice. And I don't even remember what it was. It might have just been like the catharsis of all the stress from the week, from working so many different jobs and running around, and I probably child.
Right.
Being up late with the kids.
Right. Well, it's also the pause, which we've talked about on the show before, that a lot of times we can't really deal with the things that we are dealing with because we're so damn busy and we're scheduling our days to be so packed back to back to back meetings, child activities, lunching with a friend, working, like whatever. And so yoga really is that opportunity to stop and get really, really quiet. And it can be really uncomfortable for people because that's when things can come up, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's even chakra yoga where if you're working on a certain area, like I had a very difficult birth with my first son, and I felt like that part of me was broken. So there's certain poses you can do to kind of like open and release stress in that area.
Right. Well, the thing that, to your point on that, like, it's so interesting because I never knew until maybe a decade into practicing yoga, I never really knew that there were certain places in the body that hold certain things. Like I know the hips are
I was just going to say pigeon pose.
Yes, the hips are a really big place that holds like
emotion.
grief and trauma. And so hip openers are so good for people that are going through any kind of difficulties, or even, it could even be like really past traumas, right? And the thing about your yoga practice, that I always did love, like I said, are the passages that you share, because it's more than a workout, right? It's kind of like yoga has been Americanized in the fact that people think it's a workout. Like sometimes I hear friends say, oh, well, I'm not going to go to that yoga class because it's too relaxing. What do you say to that?
So those people generally need it the most.
Right.
Because they're not relaxing and they're thinking, okay, all I care about is what the scale says, or if you can see my arm muscles. And if you can find the right class for you, it's like a marriage. It's amazing because some people like classes that go fast and you're breathing fast. I don't enjoy hot yoga because I do enough of those workouts during the week where I'm like doing burpees or running 5 miles. So for me, I still definitely get a workout and people are sweating and sore after my classes, but I like to say, breathe for 8 seconds on your inhale, 8 seconds for your exhale, really slow it down. And just by doing that, it creates this afterglow. So I always say, at the end after Shavasana, we do a little guided meditation. I have people roll over onto the right side. So the blood goes into the right side of the brain, which is also a calming effect. And I say, like, allow the yoga afterglow to come in and like take you through the week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then you leave and you're like waving people through traffic. You're like, there's a bluebird on my shoulder. I'm like whistling in the car. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Like it's like nothing really kind of phases you. Now, I want to talk about this new thing. Okay. So, if you're just tuning in, okay, I will say my whole background is in celebrity news. So I'm always interested in the big celebrity trends and things like that. And this is one that has been used by Jennifer Aniston, Gwyneth Paltrow. And now this is something that you're certified in. And, like I said, everybody knows about yoga, but I'm pretty sure many listeners right now and viewers have not heard of this yet, and they don't know about it. And it is face yoga. Okay.
Exactly.
Face yoga. But this is not some kind of, flash in the pan, trendy type thing. It is actually really, really beneficial, right?
Yes. I like to say that, we always work out like our butt cheeks in the gym and everybody wants, that peach emoji butt, but we don't work out our face cheeks. And what's more important?
Right.
So yoga, face yoga is a combination of lymphatic drainage through acupressure, which makes your face just feel like, oh my God, like, it's amazing. Like you're on vacation.
Deep puffer.
So it gets rid of the toxins that you might have in your lymph nodes. Then there's facial massage, self-massage with oils, like natural oils. You use the gua sha, which looks like that heart-shaped stone.
Yep.
To chisel and increase your circulation, and the face roller. And then you do a bunch of exercises that actually you do feel the burn in your face and you feel it lifting.
So this has just fascinated me so much since you told me you were going for this certification. And of course you are, because you have so many things going on, but like you see something and you're like, I'm going to do this too. But the thing about face yoga also, because I want to get into the benefits of it, but the thing that really spoke to me is, in Greenwich, in lots of places, but certainly in Greenwich, there are a lot of
med spas.
There are a lot of med spas. And there are a lot of people utilizing those med spas for lip fillers and Botox and facelifts and face filler, to puff up their cheeks and things like that. And I would say the majority of us use many of those things. I mean, I've had Botox many times. I think I probably go like once every 8 months or something. I tried lip fillers, maybe. Actually, it was like my gift to myself after my daughter was born. My daughter is 16 months old, because for so many years, my body was not my own. And so my whole thing, my husband's like, please don't put anything in your lips. And I'm like, I'm not going to make them look big. It's just like God forgot to put the lips in the lips, and I say when I finally had body autonomy and I wasn't a lab rat in an experiment of IVF, that I wanted to do something for myself. So, so we've all kind of, dabbled in one way or another, something to kind of get the wrinkles out of our face. But this is a non-invasive way that requires no needles, no chemicals, and has an amazing therapeutic benefit, and also for your mental health, right?
Definitely. One of the big things is you're breathing through the whole thing. And some people forget to breathe if they're like holding a pose, but breath is a big part of face yoga.
Well, I do breathe through my lip injections because they really hurt. Yes.
And so face yoga is not instead of Botox. You can still do Botox and you do the face, because you're not really fighting gravity with the Botox. You're fighting it maybe in your forehead and your eyes, but here, this is the area that
like the lower,
the
so
neck,
it's like the lower jowl, the jowl line underneath your chin. What do they call that? Like the turkey, the turkey neck,
the double chin,
the things that we're all getting as we are approaching our 50s.
And so for face yoga, if you're not getting Botox, there are definitely moves you can do that build your forehead muscles to lift. Eyes, there's an upper eye lift, there's a lower eye lift, there's a temple toner, there's a whole bunch of different things. But so I do get Botox in my forehead, so I more focus on the cheeks, the frown lines, and the neck and jowls.
Right. And so aside from thinking about, how is this going to improve how I look, right? How is this going to improve how people feel? What goes on with the lymphatic drainage that really allows people to feel more peaceful or more calm or help their nervous systems?
So for face yoga, it takes about half an hour, and we actually start out, I'm certified through the Fit Face method. You can find them on Instagram. So it starts out actually with a meditation, and you focus on the things that you like about yourself. And it doesn't have to be physical. But it can be
positive affirmations. We talked about this when I had my friend Allison Sepanera on, and we talked about imposter syndrome. If you head back, to previous episodes, and we talked about how positive affirmations are something that we don't do enough of and something that we really need to do more of. Okay. So this is, no, I had no idea. I thought this was just a manual massage almost of the face.
It's almost like a full yoga class, including a cool down and like a little bit of meditation at the end. But it's not anti-aging, it's kind of pro-aging in a healthy way that makes you feel empowered because you have control over it. If you do the exercises, you can really make yourself look much younger.
I love that. And not anti-aging, pro-aging.
Yeah, in a healthy way. And so you might start out with your meditation being like, I really like my eyes. I really like my eye color or something like that. Or thinking like, I like how, strong my body is. I can do a lot of push-ups, like whatever. It doesn't have to be physical.
That's not what I would say about myself.
It could be, I have a great sense of humor. It doesn't have to be physical. But you just focus on something that's going to make you feel good and put you in a positive mindset going in. And then usually we start out with some facial, lymphatic drainage, but also the massage, and it increases your circulation. It drains. I mean, your lymph nodes don't really drain on their own. So you've seen tapping before. When you tap your lymph nodes, it's tapping your neck, tapping your chest, tapping under your arms to kind of drain the toxins out of there so that they can do their job.
Yes. So hold that thought for a second, because if you are not familiar with tapping, this is one of the strangest and yet most effective things that you can do to heal your mind and your nervous system. There are so many great resources online about tapping. And if you're sitting there like wondering, like, what are you talking about? Like tapping my foot when I'm waiting in line for something? No, this is an actual thing that you do with your own hands, tapping parts of your face, parts of your shoulders, actually one hand tapping a part of the other hand. There are specific pressure points where you tap. And a lot of times it goes along with a meditation, but it doesn't even have to be with a meditation.
Yeah,
and
I've done the videos on YouTube for that, and it's really helpful.
It's so effective. So tapping, I'm going to do a whole episode about tapping, because I'm so happy that you mentioned tapping as a great tool. But okay, so continue. So tapping.
So I'll just give an example that you and I can work on one together. One of my spots is right here underneath your eyes, so directly under your pupils. I'd hold it, press, and just sort of move it around and see if there's a tender spot. That's kind of how you know you're there. And then, so you can hold and press, or you can move it around and just breathe. Yeah.
That's so weird. There is actually a spot
a
right
tender
there.
spot right there. And so after about 10 seconds to 30 seconds, then just start tapping on that spot.
And then what does that do? That kind of like loosens it.
That's that Ujjayi ocean wave yoga breath by tightening the back of your throat and breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And so if we were to do the whole face, you would really feel like even right here, do you feel much more relaxed right underneath your eyes?
I do. And also, by the way, if you're listening to this show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio, and you're wondering like, well, where's their hand? What's happening? What are they doing? Head to my Instagram at Dorothy on TV, because there's tons of content and tons of extra videos and things guys can see on there. I always say it's the visual accompaniment to the audio podcast, if you're not watching this on YouTube.
And I have several exercises that I focus on, like 4 that I did an article for that's going to be coming out soon. But it's on my Instagram. If you look at the Reels page, it'll show you a few of these exercises.
Okay,
and I
good.
think today I'm going to do the acupressure points. So, check out Nikki Fitness. I also have Nikki Fitness _face yoga.
Yep. Okay. So you can definitely see a lot more things that you can do on Nikki's Instagram as well, at Nikki Fitness.
And sometimes I include this in my regular yoga classes at Equinox, the acupressure. I always want to say acupuncture, acupressure, in the beginning of class, and people come up to me afterwards and are like, how can I learn more about this? Like, it's such a relief. But then you start to do the exercises. So one of the exercises we talked about, jowls.
So the jowls are like, what is it? It's like the area underneath your chin.
Between your chin and your like collarbone.
Right.
The neck area.
That part of your body that gets very saggy as time marches on.
Yeah, because gravity just is pulling on it. And, so one of the moves we would do is you would put the back of your hand underneath your chin, and then you would take your tongue and press down on the bottom of your mouth.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
And you hold it you hold all the exercises for 30 seconds, and it will start to feel the burn, and just keep breathing. Because again, people forget to breathe. I do this like when I'm driving. So if you see a girl in a white convertible with like weird like facial expressions, I just try to work it into my day and do it when I'm driving. It's
I'm just picturing you driving around Greenwich in your white convertible. This is all just so fascinating. I mean, I love new trends for pro-aging, not anti-aging, pro-aging, which I love the reframe there. It's so important.
There's lots of studies about how yoga, the mind and body connection works. I'm going to give some of the clinical top line explanation, and then I'm going to just dumb it down and say what I think it means to me and what I tell my members.
I love this because it's not just about toning your glutes. It's not just about toning your arms. That's a nice little benefit of yoga, but it really is like, what does it do to your mind? Because that's very much what That Greenwich Life is about, what the show is about.
So the first one is introspection. It's our ability to perceive the internal state of our bodies, and it's a key factor of health. So being in tune with your body, like knowing if you're feeling a little like shaky and a little like high strung that day, and knowing maybe what caused it, if it was like too much coffee, or, are you nervous about something?
Well, because the thing is, we can't give ourselves what we need mentally, and we can't give ourselves what we need physically if we don't even know what we need.
Exactly.
And so yoga, what you're saying, what was it?
Interoception.
Interoception. That is a way for us to really get quiet, which I'm always advocating for.
And it's awareness. Because some people say, I don't have good body awareness, where they're not good at like a dance class, because somebody says right, you go left.
Oh, you do not want to see me in one of those dance classes. What's the dance class that everybody loves with the music? I do love the music.
Oh, like Zumba?
Zumba.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. If you saw me in a Zumba class, just enjoy the rest of your day, because you'll be laughing your ass off. Okay, continue.
That's another episode. Self-compassion. When we are suffering, being self-critical, experience feelings of failure and insecurity, self-compassion allows people to respond with kindness to one's own state of mind, helping us to ground. We talk about grounding a lot in yoga, and foster soothing, positive self-parenting.
I love that. So giving yourself the 45 minutes or the 1 hour of doing yoga is a way to show yourself some consideration and some love. Can you say the same for a high impact kickboxing class?
It really depends on how you feel afterwards. Like when I have a high impact, HIIT class, I teach Metcon 3, for example. That's very boot camp, burpees, snatches.
You'll never see me there. I love you, but you will never see me there.
I might have to make some sort of a bet with you at some point that you'll lose. So
I will lose. I will lose. The stakes, I will make sure the stakes are not high.
So when I leave that, I feel like I'm a superhero. I have that cardio endorphin high, and I love it. If you leave feeling like, oh my God, I feel like
It's me.
You know, just like drained, then that's not for you. So I don't really love Pilates, for example, but some people love it. So whatever you love, but also if you're like, I can't do yoga because it's too quiet and laying in Shavasana at the end, like that's a waste of time. You're definitely the one. And I am A-type personality. I got certified in yoga, so I would be forced to do it more often. And because I knew it was good for me.
So if you're the one who's saying, I don't want to do it because it's too quiet and it's too focused, you're the one who needs it the most.
Yeah.
You have to listen to that resistance.
I always have 4 parts of my yoga classes, and they're mantras that I also say at the end, which is let go, go with the flow.
Oh
and we'll get into that later, like how you can take that off the mat into your daily life.
Right.
Be present and be grateful.
Well, let go and go with the flow. I did an episode a few weeks back about my experience with goat yoga in Vail, And I remember you saying like, the GOAT stands for grossest of all time.
Because you were smelling the poop.
Because not only was I smelling it, but the little baby goats, I mean, you have to head back to this episode because it's not just about the goat yoga. It's about letting go and knowing that going with the flow is part of the whole experience. I mean, like this goat like was sick or something. And like, you know, this goat like just thought that my mat was its bathroom. And it was really something, but it really forced me in that moment to like quiet my brain, which I could see was starting to rev up and really just say, this is yoga. It's about the flow. It's about going with the flow.
And maybe that goat was placed there for you.
100%.
Because if you're starting to get annoyed, like you get annoyed by standing in line at the DMV or being in traffic. How do you breathe through it and think, well, this is going to give me an opportunity to work that muscle of not being annoyed and of accepting.
100%. And that's why I would do it all over again. And I would definitely encourage anybody who's going out to Vail to do the goat yoga. I mean, because it's just, that's exactly what it was. I mean, it had a lot of really positive points too, of course.
But that's just like a funny anecdote, but it helps you teach yourself to be more patient.
I think yoga is scary for a lot of people because it is so quiet. And there's nothing that we hate more than being alone with our thoughts because they can be very scary. And that's when we have to really deal with some of the things that we're dealing with. But that's what this show is about, right? Like we're all dealing with things and we all have to find ways to deal more. Nikki, last question before we head out, but what is your recommendation for the folks who are listening who are marathon runners and who are running 9 miles a day and who are really engaging on a regular basis in this really intense kind of physical activity, weightlifting, like people who are really, really committed to the gym, like where can they find space and how important is it to find space for a yoga practice maybe, once a week?
When you're working out in a stressful way, it does stress your body and it does release cortisol. If it depends on if the endorphins are more than the cortisol, because then you'll feel great and it overcomes it.
Right.
But so with yoga, cortisol is a stress hormone, and elevated in acute stress. So like a marathon. And if you have acute stress regularly, your short-term sympathetic nervous system responses are adaptive. So they basically keep you in fight or flight. And what you mentioned before in yoga, when you're forced to be breathing and be with your thoughts, you only can focus really on one thing, which is getting into side angle pose and, doing a headstand. So your focus, there's enough, but you're singularly focused. And in today's world, we are multitasking all over the place. We're sending emails while we're driving and the map's telling us where to go and the kids are screaming in the car and you're running to going over what your interview questions are going to be in your head. You're just constantly scattered.
Constantly.
And so the singular focus is another big thing.
I have to get back to my yoga practice. I mean, the fact is, many of our viewers and listeners, I'm sure, have tried yoga, and some may have a practice that they do weekly or twice a week. But I think probably many people are probably more like me, where I love yoga. I know that I love yoga, but I'm not setting this time aside for it that I should be. And I'm not doing it as frequently as I should be. I'm not really doing it at all. I've kind of fallen out of a yoga practice.
That's why it's great to have a personal trainer yoga teacher. Like
Right.
I do that
Like
as
you,
well.
right.
So because if you're paying for it and you're signed up and they're coming to your house or whatever, you can't get out of it.
Right.
Number one. Number two, when you kind of make that promise to yourself. Oh, also I should say, if you have certain injuries that like are barriers to your yoga practice. I had a client once who was running and was hit by a car in New York City. So her wrist and her knee, she had like plates, screws, everything. And yoga is a lot of wrists and knees. Mm-hmm. So I was able to do a program for her where it was more like pyramid pose, triangle pose, not as much on the knees and not as much on the wrists. You can do a dolphin pose instead of a down dog where you're on your forearms.
Right.
There's so many ways to change it up. So if you're one of those people too, or if you're pregnant,
an injury,
if
right.
you're, I got certified when I was 7 months pregnant. So there's certain things.
Of course you did.
There's certain
When
things,
I was 7 months pregnant, I was sitting on the couch every single night eating Ben and Jerry's ice cream. But Nikki got certified as a yoga instructor.
But there's certain ways to move so that the belly's not in the way of your leg or
Right.
that kind of thing.
Of course. Of course.
So yes.
So, okay. So this is all great. Now, as you all know, for each episode, I leave you with your weekly work on. So I had this idea because of our weekly and daily workouts. But your weekly work on is something just small that you can do throughout your week. There's lots of things on our to-do list that don't get checked off, that don't get crossed off throughout the week. But this is something I promise you, it's small, and small changes lead to larger changes. Mm-hmm. So for the weekly work on, we talked about how about you challenge yourself once. I always say just start small. Mm-hmm. Do it once in the whole week. And try the up the wall legs pose, which is funny. I asked Nikki, what is the name of this pose where you lay down and you put your legs up the wall? And she said up the wall leg pose.
Yeah, it's legs up the wall.
I'm not even saying it right. Legs up the wall pose, even more simple. But this is where you lay down on the floor on your back, you get your butt right up to the baseboard or the wall, whatever, and you put your legs all the way up and you keep them up there. And Nikki made the good recommendation that 2 minutes is about the extent of it, because if you have like high or low blood pressure, it can be something that if you do it for longer, you might end up passing out or something. But this is something that I'm hoping we can all find time for. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah,
So
do it for 2 minutes and breathe. And it should take about 4 to 5 cycles of the breath that I was talking about. So you will inhale. On the exhale, think, let go.
right.
Inhale, go with the flow. Exhale, be present. Inhale, be grateful. And if you do that 4 to 5 times, that's probably enough, but it's almost like a mini meditation snack.
I'm really happy that we were able to break this all down today, especially with the face yoga. Also for the face yoga, I know that you are you available to go see people in Fairfield County and Westchester County?
Yes, and I'm going to be doing some special events as well. So I'll talk about that on Instagram. You can, if you hire me, you can have a choice of maybe doing full body yoga for half an hour and then face yoga for half an hour. So it's really whatever you want and how much time you want to spend on it.
And with the power of Zoom, this is something that you can do remotely for people as well, right?
And, yes. And also, during COVID, I used to be Prevention Magazine's yoga and fitness instructor. I even did a pumpkin workout for Halloween.
I remember I used to do all the classes.
And if you are having, if you have kids and you're like, I don't have time for yoga because I have kids, I have a 15-minute yoga video for free called Squirrel Yoga for Sunshine that I did with my daughter, Victoria. And there's a book on Amazon. So it's a corresponding, and it's teaching them counting because they blow the clouds away with their breath. And it has a lot of good lessons that sort of started with COVID about feeling alone and missing your friends, but knowing that you can always basically find calm by breathing.
I will tell you, Squirrel Yoga for Sunshine is truly the most adorable children's book for really any age, and the message is so good, and I just absolutely love. I actually bought a few copies when you first published it, and I gave them out as birthday presents. And I remember your daughter Victoria's one of her birthdays, because Nikki's daughter and my son have been such good friends for all of this time since we really have moved to Greenwich, right? Like 7 years they've been good friends. They were in school together, and I remember one of her birthday parties, how you had all the kids around your pool, and you did the Squirrel Yoga for Sunshine. So that's really great also if you have kids and you want to really get them something, or
Because then you're both breathing and you're both chilling out, but it's time together. You know, your attention is on them and on the book or on the video. And it's just like a nice bonding experience, especially in summer when the kids are like, oh, I'm bored, or they're overstimulated with too many activities.
Definitely.
This is a nice thing to do a couple times a week with them.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much to my amazing in-studio guest in our new set here, Nicole Glor. She's incredible. Check her out at Nikki Fitness. It's Nikki at Nikki Fitness on Instagram. If you follow me, you've seen me tag her in like 1,000 things because we do so much together. And then also her website, nikkifitness.com. And she has tons of great videos on her YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much all for tuning in. I appreciate it so much. Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps push the podcast out to even more people. And if you want more of That Greenwich Life, please follow me on Instagram at Dorothy on TV. And you can check out my website, DorothyOnTV.com. And also thank you to Pod Populi Studios here in Greenwich for having me. They take all the hard parts out of podcasting so I can have fun with it. And to this episode's sponsors, Jaja Pet by Janet, top groomer in Greenwich, in my opinion, and medical aesthetics PA, Naomi Fisher. If you're doing that face yoga, but it's just not enough, you can check out Naomi and she can do all sorts of great things, microneedling, Morpheus for your face. So anyway, have an amazing week, everyone. Keep in mind your weekly work on, and remember, don't just live life, love it.
Namaste.
Namaste.